Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. Today's viewer requested video is from Adnan, and it is awesome detailed review of Sher Dil dogfight scene. I recommend you also react to first dogfight scene. So what we did is, as a viewer request, we watched the dogfights 2 and 3, I think it was, from the film Sher Dil, Pakistani film. Looks really good. I've never seen it, but looks really cool. And they've said check out the first dogfight scene, so we're going to go and check that out. Stand by. They are F-86F Sabres, as we get in DC as well. Amazing graphics. This is presumably all CGI nowadays.
Roger that.
Looks really good. He said he saw some gnats. Okay.
Yes, there's gnats.
I'm going to pause that now. This is obviously not modern day with the JF-17s. This is like, presumably towards the beginning of the movie. We're looking at the 1965 Pakistan and Indo War, and we've got the 1965 India-Pakistan War, how IAF's heroes slayed the PAF Superior Sabre fighter jets. So, the mainstay of the Pakistani Air Force at the time, 1965, was what would be considered outdated at the time, but it was the F-86F Sabre, which is a great plane as we all know, 120 of them, and 14 number F-104 starfighters, which would have been a fast Mach 2 interceptor we've got there. And we're just talking about here how the F-86 is equipped. And it's amazing to see the F-86 is doing so well even in 1965 plus for the 1965 war. They're talking about how it's got GAR-8 Sidewinders, AIM-9Bs or A's, I can't remember, but whatever, they're bloody terrible. They're useless in a dogfight pretty much. Talks about information about that. Then if we jump down to the Indian Air Force, we've got vampires, British vampires, because obviously we've got the backing of Britain in terms of supplying airframes. So we've got Indian Air Force vampires here. We've got Mysteers, which are, they're pretty sure they're French. Got the Nats is what we're looking at today. Let's see if we can find the Nats. So here's the Nats, tip of the initiative were the Foland Nats of 23 Squadron, the Panthers, which should be deployed at this place on 2nd of September. So we've got 2x30mm cannons in them, and they're lightweight and faster than the F-86 as far as I'm aware. So that's what we've got. Indian Nats versus F-86F Pakistani Sabres, which is an interesting fight. So let's continue with the movie.
Heading for home. Stay sharp.
Graphics are so cool. Which DCS look like it?
Watch your fuel tanks now.
Roger.
Oh, so that's the first thing. I'm still not 100% sure about this. I always say if you're going to go into a dogfight with any era of plane, you're going to dump your tanks first. Whether it's an F-15, whether it's a MiG-15, whether it's an F-86. Whether you'd actually do that in a modern jet in reality, I don't know. You'd have to go and ask Lemoyne for that as to whether you're supposed to do that or not. In DCS, obviously, you can, because it doesn't matter if they drop and blow a village up. It's not important in DCS. I always say in DCS, at least, you do drop your fuel tanks. And again, we're seeing it here, presumably period accurate, that they do drop them in the F-86F Pakistani Sabres. So it's just something to bear in mind. Goes back to the old argument we had with whether, and this always gets everyone going, whether fuel tanks dropped at some knots would explode, hits the ground. I am 99% sure that they will explode when they hit the ground. RC, what's your thoughts nowadays?
I think for the most part it depends on the state of the tank, but if they could explode like they do in the movies, they should just use them as bombs.
Okay, well, RC still thinks they don't explode. I am pretty sure they do, and I think they'll hit, however full they are, I think they'll always explode, and even if they hit soft earth, I think they'll explode as well. This kind of goes back to looking at the theory of when the, won't be very popular, but when the airliners hit the Twin Towers, what happened to the metal when it impacted another surface, even like the glass, it essentially just vaporizes and explodes. And we had a really good link on the previous video when we were talking about this. You guys linked us a Jaguar dumped tanks after an afterburner failure after taking off. So he was only 150 knots, which is as slow as a modern aircraft will go, and he dropped them onto soft grass, and immediately they blew up like in the movies.
Did he dump ordnance as well, though?
I don't know. I just saw him said fuel tanks. It may have not, but even if he dumped ordnance, RC, they wouldn't have been. They would be inert anyway. There would be no fuse, so it would be less likely a bomb would actually explode if you dropped it than a fuel tank. I'm pretty sure. And a lot of people would agree and disagree.
I mean, it could happen.
Again, and the reason is the flashpoint. I think is again when you throw metal at something fast, it becomes red hot, and it becomes over 1,000 degrees Celsius in temperature when it's bending. I know that from my old job. So anyway, now that's my. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. We're going to bore the valued viewers.
Receiving information to identify. Paper 6 o'clock. Break.
All those planes look great. This film's great. I love this film because we've looked at older films like Independence Day. Like everything about Independence Day is unrealistic, and I don't mean just aliens and stuff. I mean just literally inside the cockpit, everything's just made up. But here they press the SCS button, for instance, to fire the cannons and stuff like that. It's so stupid that it's just stupid. And this, everything's right. It's really good film. I know they did some BS with the MWS. They kind of did a Hollywood MWS/RWR thing, as they all seem to do, to simplify it. But this fight looks perfectly realistic. He's pressed the right button, he's pressed the trigger. The gun sight was right. Let's see if we can get a shot at the gun sight.
Reverse the brake rotation.
Annoyingly, the sounds, they've got the same sounds for the machine guns as they have for the GSHs in the Jitty Pop. The what's it called? The JF-17. Yeah, which is like a like an M2 or something. Technically, it's kind of correct. I mean, these are actually M3s in the F-86 Sabre, but there's 6 of them. So the actual, and they are whatever the word, I forgot what the word is, but they're not firing at the same time. They're phased, so it would sound more like a Gatling gun than da-da-da-da-da. So that bit gets me. But again, it's Hollywood sexiness and stuff. Let's carry on.
I've got the left.
You saw that. If we go back. You saw that you've got their GAR 8. So these Sidewinder ALBs, I forgot which, called GAR 8 before they're called Sidewinders, and they would usually fire these. They're useless in a dogfight. As soon as these gnats are splitting, these GAR 8s are useless, and we know that from anecdotal history and, well, realistic history, and from DCS. They're modelled pretty well. But what they would be used for is intercept, so and for low moving targets. So they would, in reality, have fired these missiles before they'd fire their guns, before these guys were manoeuvring, and they would have actually shot them down. They work perfectly well as long as these guys don't manoeuvre. So the first thing they would have done is got their GAR 8s in there, taken 2 of these out, and then gunned the last one down. However, that's not particularly sexy in a movie, so obviously they don't do it for the movie. That there is a real gun sight pipper from an F-86. So again, great to see that they got the real stuff. 99.9% of people who watch the movie won't know, but that's F-86F, and that is a gyro-driven gun sight. Now, a gyro-driven gun sight isn't actually really meant to be used under high stress, high Gs like this. If you read the F-86 manual, because it cocks up, the gyros are only so good under pressure. So personally, what I do in the model is I remove the gyro gun sight and leave it to just a fixed gun sight, which he may have here. It's hard to tell. It looks like he's got the gyro cage at the moment, which is what I would do.
Tracking.
Yeah, you can see it's wherever the plane moves, the gun sight moves, and that's almost certainly it's been caged, so it's not gyro driven at the moment. Okay, just to show you what we mean, this is an F-86F. It's basically exactly the same plane as we've got. So we've currently got the gyro driven sight caged at the moment, as I believe they would have used it in the film, and you can see it's basically identical to how it looks in the film. And watch how the sight, the reticle moves with the gun sight glass in relation to my aircraft. Basically just like it was in the film. And you see I'm going to have to add necessary lead because it's just fixed to the bore sight of the aircraft. Now I'm going to uncage the gun sight to enable the gyro, like that, and you can see it moves completely differently. Look how it moves now compared to how it was on the film. Moves completely differently, and so that's why we're pretty certain that they would have had a caged gun sight in the film.
Tracking. Almost there.
And now, if it's true that it is caged, then he would have to, in that case, add his own lead. So having the reticle on the target at that point, assuming it's caged, it really looks to me like it's caged. If that's the case, then he wouldn't actually be shooting at that target at all, which is interesting. He would actually have to add his lead way up on the lift vector of this guy here, to add enough lead, assuming that this is uncaged, and I'm pretty sure because of the tightness of the turn that is a caged pipper. So that is something that they appear to have done wrong. Again, looks sexy like this, so.
Yes.
Would the fuel explode? Yes, it does. Again, you put big KE into anything like this, and any combustible just explode. Even non-combustibles can explode in situations like this.
Great, sir. But I'm standing to here. Rajesh, follow me. We're close to border. I'm on your six.
They rejoined a bit quick, bearing in mind they just did a separate dogfight, but meh.
You're looking good.
Yeah, that is definitely a caged gyro because they're turning not super tight but relatively tight here. And if that was uncaged, this pipper would be way down here off the bottom of the gun sight. So it's a caged pipper. They has to therefore add his own lead onto the target. So he has to actually aim this reticle up here on the lift vector of this plane to score a hit and guess the lead. So that's just something to bear in mind.
And if it was uncaged, he'd probably have broken it by now.
Yeah, he would have broke. If it's an uncaged gun sight, they probably would have broken the gyro by now. But all this twisting and turning, this is 1950s tech at the end of the day. Also, maybe not of relevance here, but you can, or no, it should be relevant. You can range using this is what we call stadiometric gun sight. We can actually gather a range by it, as well as the onboard radar of this aircraft. And you can set these reticle symbology here to a certain wingspan of the aircraft. I don't know if he's using his radar or what, so I don't really know. I'm not going to comment anymore. But it is one way of ranging stadiometrically is to set this reticle to a certain size and then match it to the wingspan of the aircraft.
Braking left, braking high. I'm on him. Heading for clouds.
Do these planes have enough energy to go up like that in real life? These planes we're looking at? Possibly. They are actually quite fast. So maybe. They're not warbirds.
Bogey in clouds. I'm on bogey too. He's heading for the deck. बेटे ये मेरा आसमान और मेरी जमीन है. बहुत आला. I'll be here when you come down.
Okay, that appears to be it. So, really cool gun sight, really cool graphics. It's exactly the kind of movie I'd love to go and watch. So the inaccuracies we saw, they should have used the GAR-8s at the beginning. I can't see any reason why they didn't. The gun was clearly a caged, it was a gyro sight, but it was clearly caged, so they were aiming incorrectly. And they didn't appear to be ranging. I can't really tell because I couldn't see the rest of the cockpit. And I think they had yellow gun tracers. I think the M3 half-inch ammunition for these planes was actually red tracers. I stand to be corrected by that, but I thought it was. Otherwise, everything was kind of pretty cool, to be honest. Anything you've got to add to that, RC?
Nope, nothing to add to that.
But sorry, one more thing I've just thought of. I know those, if that's the F model Sabre, which it is, remember they had in real life pretty smoky engines, pretty inefficient. A lot of unburnt fuel came out and smoky engines. In here, it was all clean, so you'd actually have smoke pouring out of the back of these engines, and that's one of the ways you actually found these planes. Probably the Nats and the Mysteers and stuff as well. I don't really know. You'd actually see the smoke before you saw the plane, and that's how you'd actually find these planes. Just an interesting thing there, especially on a clear day like this. Right, that's it for Sher Dil. I don't think there's any more there. I hope you enjoyed that. Please argue with me, and see you later. Bye.